Faster, modern, streamlined expresses speed over the rail tracks of Britain today, heralding a new age of transport. And away to the sidings go the old carriages whose day is done. As a result of its program to make its services more efficient and show a profit, British Railways is today producing 1/6 of the country's scrap metal by cutting down on excessive rolling stock and track. Over the last 10 years, the number of coaches has been reduced from 57,000 to 31,000, and goods trucks from 1,100,000 to about 720,000. These carriages, which have carried generations of holidaymakers and people going to the office, have come to the end of the line. Anything that can be used again economically is salvaged, but there is nothing much that can be done with old woodwork except this. In a nearby breaker's yard, the chassis are cut up and stacked, ready to be sent to the foundries. There, the metal will be melted down, and some of it will be used in making new steel for new coaches. All over the country, steam engines in their hundreds line up at breakers' yards. For after more than 150 years, the diesel engine is taking over as a first stage toward electrification. 10 years ago, there were 18,000 steam locomotives puffing along the tracks. Today, there are 7,000, and the number gets smaller each month. All this adds up to big business for the scrap department of British Railways, which today has an annual turnover of £20 million. It's all part of the bigger business of modernisation. The more efficient, rapidly accelerating diesel engines being built at Crewe and other centres have been coming into service at the rate of 1 a day. Today there are nearly 4,000 of them, and Britain now has the largest fleet of diesel locomotives and rail cars in the world. But not all old railway equipment in Britain is going for scrap. On the outskirts of Leeds, the Middleton Railway Trust, started 4 years ago by railway enthusiasts, today runs a service over 3 miles of old colliery track, the oldest stretch of railway track in the world. With 5 steam locomotives and 6 wagons, the 160 members of the trust operate a good service for local factories. Over 6 level crossings on the track, this 1909 shunting engine hauls another load down to the main line. With British Railways closing down sections of track which don't pay their way, some stations are being converted into homes. Newmarket's impressive-looking old station, which now handles only a good service, is also the home of one of the porters, who lives in part of the building with his family. So there's a man who literally lives on the job. A horse is used for shunting at this station, since racehorses travel from here, and it was found that the noise of a locomotive was apt to make them nervous. For the porter's wife, there are compensations in living in the station. Her husband can't very well be late for meals. Old railway equipment is being put to all sorts of uses nowadays. Mr. Edward Walker, who plays the flute in one of the big London orchestras, has a signal in the back garden of his Middlesex home. With his son, he gives it a regular check, for the signal is used whenever the Walker family gives a party. The green light means carry on, the red, go home. As on the railways, so on the roads. City buses also need to move with the times and be brought up to date. The London bus, known the world over for its distinctive red paint, is now being tried out in unpainted aluminium. This could mean a saving in maintenance costs, if the public will accept the new colour. When city buses are past their economic operating life, many of them are sold overseas, like this batch going to Ceylon. But what's happened to the trams? Once the mainstay of city transport systems, they are today just collector's pieces. At Cryche, near Matlock in Derbyshire, a tramway society has collected 35 of them, operating them on a mile of track in a disused quarry. To house the trams, the 850 members of the society have spent £2,500 on new sheds. They're extending the track to 2 miles, and they are generating their own electricity, so that eventually they will have the original overhead cable power supply. The society's oldest tram is horse-drawn and was built in Sheffield in 1874. Today, when the enthusiasts feel like a tram trip, they hire a horse from a local farmer and dream of the days when life moved more slowly. For heavy-duty work in the past, the traction engine was an important part of the road transport system. But today, it's mainly amateurs who keep these steam engines in working order. On a farm in Kent, 40-year-old surveyor Bob Whitehead fires up his 1904 model. And this early steam wagon, complete with solid tyres, is still licensed for running on the road. The Pullman all-restaurant car service, which is now part of British Railways, came to Britain from America in 1872 and has been continually modernised ever since. These 3 old Pullman coaches, built some 30 years ago, are on their way from Brighton to a transport museum in the New Forest. They were transported by road for the last 15 miles from Southampton. Each of them is 66 feet long and weighs 38 tons. Things are certainly changing when a motorist has to pass a train on the road. With the Pullman coaches came a 30-year-old locomotive of the schools class, which was used in the south of England and will now be preserved for future generations. The 67-ton loco and coaches were run up onto the transporter on rails, and then at the museum, with rails waiting to take them, they were lowered inch by inch into their new home. Their successors, new all-steel coaches, run on today's luxury services, such as the Blue Pullman Diesel Express, which does 90 miles an hour between London and Manchester. They bring nearer the day when passengers will have nothing at all to complain about. But don't worry, it's not likely to be this year.